All right, are you having fun? All right, so I'd like to introduce our first speaker, and she's a happily married mother of 7. She's an author, a brilliant artist whose paintings have been seen by thousands of people and have sold for thousands of dollars. If that life sounds like a dream, it was not always the case. At the age of 16, Julia Holcomb became the legal ward of Steven Tyler, the lead singer of the rock band Aerosmith, and her story of that phase of her life was chronicled in an article titled "The Light of the World, the Steven Tyler and Julia Holcomb Story." Since that very challenging and traumatic period in her life, Julia has gone on to become a wife, mother, and well-known speaker on the dignity and sanctity of human life. Her inspiring life story will be told in her upcoming book to be released by Ignatius Press. For more information about her book, you can go to rockbabybook.com. So please give an enthusiastic welcome to Julia Holcomb.
Hi! I am so glad to be here with you at the Walk for Life in San Francisco. I'm going to begin talking with you today with a Bible verse. 1 John 1:9 tells us that if we confess our sins, He is faithful and just and will forgive us our sins and cleanse us from all unrighteousness. Today I am going to be silent no more about the very worst sin I ever committed in my life. When I was just 16 years old, I met Steven Tyler of the rock group Aerosmith and former American Idol judge at a concert in Portland, Oregon. And we began a relationship that ended after a horrific late-term saline abortion. You know, I never dreamed I would ever speak publicly about my abortion. There have been millions of abortions in the United States since Roe versus Wade, and almost 1 in 3 women have had an abortion. I am one of those women, and I want you to know, as a Silent No More spokesperson under Priests for Life, that with all my heart, I regret my abortion. Steven also expressed his regret for my abortion. He used the words, "Jesus, what have I done?" You know, Father Frank Pavone writes in his book, Ending Abortion, that abortion is a choice that leaves victims. He is so right. Abortion leaves a trail of victims. It takes the life of an innocent baby, and it leaves mothers and fathers wounded and grieving for that last child. It sends out a shockwave across the family, the community, and our entire nation. As I said, I never, ever expected to speak publicly about my abortion or my relationship with Steven. You know, I've been married for over 33 years, and I have 7 beautiful children. When I met my husband, I told him about my relationship with Steven before we married, because he needed to know that before he made a commitment to a lifelong relationship. But together, we had decided not to tell our 7 children. So they never knew about my past abortion or my relationship with Steven. That past had caused me so much grief. I did not want them to be touched by it in any way. I hoped that my abortion would never, ever touch their lives. You know, that wasn't going to happen. Steven described our relationship. He described my abortion and the fire that almost claimed my life in 2 books. But in his first book, he didn't use my name. And so I could remain silent to protect my children. No one would ever know it was me he was talking about. So I remained silent. But when he became an American Idol judge, he wrote a second memoir, and this time he gave my name. And right before publication, Star magazine ran a cover story on Stephen. Inside that magazine, there were photographs of Stephen and I together. There was a description of my abortion, and they published my name. My oldest son read it on the internet, and my husband got a phone call that went something like this: "Dad, I think there's a picture of Mom in the tabloids. That can't be possible. Is this Mom? And is this true?" I had to give my first Silent No More talk at home in my living room with my 7 children. And I can tell you that we shed a lot of tears that night. It hit them like a shockwave to know that they had a brother that his life ended in an abortion. They'd never see his face alive in this world. And, you know, I had raised our children devout Catholic. They had attended pro-life events. They used to attend on Saturday mornings with our local youth group. They would go and pray the rosary outside Planned Parenthood. And it was really hard to tell them the truth about my abortion. But they were so loving and kind. At that time, one of my kids was a high school senior. He was about 6'2", freckles, red hair, played football. And you know, he dried the tears from his eyes. And he came over and he threw his arms around me. He just about picked me up and he said, "Mom, I love you and I forgive you." And I knew at that moment we were going to make it somehow through this ordeal. But one thing I decided that night when I told my kids the truth, when they had gone to Planned Parenthood, they had invited me to go with them and pray outside front and hold a sign, and I had not gone. I was just too sad inside. I still carried so much grief over my abortion that I just couldn't bring myself to go, because I knew that I had had an abortion. And so I had stayed home. But after telling my kids the truth, I made the decision that the next time they went to a pro-life event, their mom was going to be on the pavement with them holding a sign. And boy, I'm here today. When I moved to Boston to live with Stephen, I was underage, and Stephen became my legal guardian so that I could live with him and travel on tour with the band. I can remember that I used to sit on the side of the stage and watch the band perform instead of going to high school. We'd be in a different town every day. And when I became pregnant, Stephen asked me to marry him. I remember just thinking, wow, this is amazing. I'm going to get married to this man I idolize, and together we are going to start a family. You know, it's funny in life, sometimes you can think that you are on the right path, but in reality, you are lost. And that's where I was. I was lost. I was on a path that would take me to the brink of death, and I would barely escape with my life, but I didn't know it. You know, Stephen had a change of heart. First, he let me know that we would not marry, and then he left on tour, leaving me alone in our apartment. And, you know, I was underage. I had had no prenatal care. I don't know how far along I was. I was at least 5 months pregnant. I had no car, no education, and no money. There was a fire in our apartment, and I woke up in a hospital. That's where Stephen told me that I was going to have an abortion. I can remember he had lawyers advising him, and he had a doctor lined up who was going to perform the abortion. I can remember telling him no, and we argued for hours. In the end, I had to choose between Stephen and my baby. I could have that abortion or I could get out. And at that time I was so frightened. I just caved in out of fear and desperation. You know, of the millions of abortions that have happened in the United States since Roe v. Wade, over 60% involve coercion, where women are being, made to choose between their baby and their families. That was the position I was in. I don't know how anyone can say that coercion is a position of strength for a woman to have to defend her baby's right to be born when she has to defend her right to become a mother. To a woman who has had an abortion, I want you to know there is healing and forgiveness to be had. Sometimes a woman who's post-abortive fears that she's separated herself from God in such a permanent way that there's no pathway back. My Rachel's Vineyard retreat taught me that God's grace is bigger than my worst sin. And today, thank you. Today, I see myself as a guardian and protector of life. And I am on a new path. And that path brought me here today with you. It's a path on a walk for life. Thanks a lot. God bless.